Korea must reform its obsolete legislative system to survive and prosper. Good day. I am Professor Nam Yong Lee, and I also serve as chairman of the Bukak Forum, an association of more than 2,000 PhD-level policy experts dedicated to guiding and enlightening the citizens of the Republic of Korea so that a healthy liberal democracy and a vibrant free market economy may continually advance. Korea's legislative machinery now stands at the edge of dysfunction, for as of September 2, 2025, the corpus of central government norms alone comprises 1.608.3 statuta, 1.954 decreta presidenzialia, 79 decreta presidenzialia, a 1 F08 ministerial ordinances, and 3 IFA 7 IFA other rules, roughly 5 F00 instruments, while the inclusion of local ordinances and regulations raises the number simultaneously applied to citizens to 160,038, with local norms alone numbering 154,537, which itself proves that our legal system has already exceeded the bounds of manageable scale and has turned into a jungle rather than an orderly regime. Nevertheless, the volume of law grows every year, and according to promulgation statistics, in the mere 5 years from 2015 to 2019 alone, between 1,888 and 2,557 statutes, presidential decrees, prime ministerial decrees, and ministerial ordinances were newly promulgated annually, while consolidation and repeal have lagged far behind, so that legislation has become not a mechanism to solve problems, but an industry that manufactures them, and the National Assembly and the administration have abandoned even the minimal duty of managing the total stock of norms. The National Assembly is in an even graver state, for during the 4 years of the 21st Assembly, 25,858 bills were submitted and only 2,959 passed, yielding a passage rate of 11.4%, which means indiscriminate introduction of bills, meagre outcomes, and mass air legislation that automatically expires at the end of sessions, so that we now see the bare face of a legislature that spews laws but lacks the capacity to repair them, which is nothing less than the institutionalization of ignorance and incompetence. By international standards, the situation is markedly backward. For the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's 2025 Regulatory Policy Outlook records stakeholder participation and impact assessment indicators only for administration-initiated primary laws, and the share covered is a mere 6% of all primary laws, which implies that most member-initiated bills pass or drift without systematic regulatory impact assessment, cost-benefit analysis, or ex-post evaluation design, revealing a structure that chases quantity and neglects quality. This is today's National Assembly, and this is the caliber of too many of its members. The experience of citizens and enterprises on the ground is harsher still, for the number of registered regulations at local government level has swelled to 3 times that of the central government, while studies already a decade old showed that registered regulations per 1,000 public servants were 7 times higher in local governments than at the centre, meaning that even when the centre loosens, the periphery tightens, and a regulatory backflow has been structurally entrenched so that bureaucracy expands, responsibility disperses, and both citizens and businesses lose their way in a maze. The cumulative totals tell the same story, for by 2019, Korea had promulgated at least 16,660 statutes, 30,220 presidential decrees, 1,574 prime ministerial decrees, and 23,873 ministerial ordinances, no fewer than 74,349 інструментаў, якія паказваюць, што мы не прасоўвалі цывілізацыі права, а яго стратыфікаванае засяджванне пакладзены пласта на пласт, у той жа час postponing comprehensive overhauls so that system and textual reviews devolved into formalities and the costs were borne by the daily lives of citizens and by the innovation capacity of firms, and when a law such as the Capital Gains Tax Statute and its subordinate regulations are amended as many as a dozen times in a single year, citizens and businesses alike are left exhausted. Let me speak plainly. The current Assembly is not a body that makes law, but one that squanders it, for too many legislators are trapped in a numbers game, chasing the phantom of chief sponsorship records, whose end is a low passage rate, a high rate of automatic lapse, and the collapse of public trust, because law is not a publicity flyer, and legislation is not a press release, and when ignorance and incompetence combine, they become a violence that wears the mask of the rule of law. The remedy is not to hunt for inventions or patterns, but to change the structure itself. And so, first, I propose reducing the number of legislators from 300 to 100, because the current size has produced overcrowded committees, diluted expertise, diffuse responsibility, and counterfeit competition, while a one-third assembly with slim standing committees, clearly defined responsibility per member, and specialized assignment to a single committee based on proven expertise would enable genuine responsibility politics. Each member should be supported by exactly 2 policy aides holding doctoral degrees in the relevant field, while the office of legislator should be an unpaid honorary position with expense reimbursements only, and the 2 aides should be accorded quasi-civil service rank at grade 3 to 5, which is the path to raising productivity and quality simultaneously. Second, the development of bills and policies must be fully transitioned to an internet-based model of expert collective intelligence, whereby academia, industry, civil society, and professional communities outside government produce open drafts online and compete in data-backed, evidence-based, simulation-supported bill contests with awarded prizes, so that the Assembly's role shifts from competing to originate policy to verifying, integrating, and adopting. A legislator should serve not as a proposer, but as a national examiner, possessing the competence and credentials to review doctoral-level work, while a jointly operated platform run by the Ministry of Government Legislation and the Assembly publishes, for every bill, a legal integrity analysis, conflicts of structure, violations of superior law, duplication, excess declaratory clauses, and a law economics analysis, costs, benefits, distributional and innovation effects as mandatory metrics, fully enforcing the OECD's recommendations on ex-ante impact assessment, stakeholder participation, and ex-post evaluation design without exception for member-initiated bills, and abolishing altogether the administration's practice of legislating via subordinate administrative legislation procedures. Third, using the Federal Enterprise Architecture (FEA) approach, national law must be rebuilt as a function-based system of lines of business, LOB, mapping statutes, enforcement decrees, enforcement rules, administrative rules, and local ordinances onto a single legislative architecture with machine-readable metadata that records interdependence, delegation, and conflict relations. Instead of unconstrained annual promulgation, a binding ein-out rule must pair each new instrument with a simultaneous consolidation or repeal, supported by automated engines for conflict detection, duplication removal, and sunset cleanup, with total stock management jointly accountable to the Assembly and the Ministry of Government Legislation, while, to preserve public trust, amendments to existing laws must be tightly controlled, as in common law jurisdictions, to prevent incessant churn. Fourth, voting accountability must be fully disclosed, publishing in a standard, immediate format every member's attendance, yea, near vote, and statement of reasons, together with committee reviews, substitute texts, pro and con debate transcripts, and roll call logs, because bundled midnight votes cannot withstand the discipline of the record, and legislation, like all public power, grows only under the bright sun. Fifth, a local norm diet is imperative, instituting a linked cap between central and local stocks, and establishing a rule that when central norms are eased, local governments may not introduce stricter rules in the same or similar fields, for unless we reverse the reality that local registered regulations are triple those of the centre, the forest of law that citizens confront will only grow denser, and the nation's enterprises will struggle for breath. Sixth, we must build a grand atlas of legislative data, an interactive map of the strata of more than 70,000 promulgated instruments since liberation, layering on every provision its source, amendment history, delegation chain, and case law links, so that beyond the excellent services already provided by the KLRI and the National Law Information Centre, integrated statistics and deep metadata allow judges, prosecutors, attorneys, businesses and citizens to find their path with clarity and speed. Finally, I make this pledge to the people. A legislator's seat is not a place to stamp one's name upon the title of a law, but a trust to protect the people's time and money, and therefore we must simplify to a core of 100 competent legislators, adopt a three-stage division of labour, expert collective design on the open internet, legislative verification by national examiners, and popular adoption. Implement FEA-style legislative architecture with total stock management, practice full transparency with responsibility politics, and put local norms on a disciplined diet, thereby transforming the legal swamp into a digital expressway, so that we move from a country where freedom shrinks as law grows complicated to a country where opportunity expands as law becomes simple and precise, ending the era of event-driven headline legislation and beginning an era of structural lawmaking in a great transformation of Korea's legislative order. And let every citizen remember that only an awakened people can live well and live free. Thank you very much for your attention.